Hello and welcome to a detailed replay analysis by Strangers 1 to 3. Today we are looking at Dekwalle from SGTA 2 in a ELC AMX. Now with 10 seconds left on the battle countdown, let's have a look at the team list. We get 3 medium tanks, they get 2, and a KV-85, which is a pretty heavy medium. They also, however, get an SU-100 on top of that, so we are actually a pretty significant tier 6 disadvantage to the enemies. Artillery wise, we're reasonably similar, though we definitely get the better rate of fire. We have otherwise 3 tier 5 heavy tanks, much like the enemy. We get a T1 heavy each, they get a BDR, we get a VK3001H, which are reasonably similar as well. And otherwise, you know, KV1 on top, there's nothing really to compare to that. Both teams get a Sherman, 2 tier 5 tank destroyers. We, however, get 3 tier 5 light tanks, 2 of which are ELCs, the same as the enemy team, and then a Crusader, which is in reality a tier 5 medium tank. Artillery-wise, we get a SU-122A, which has some very heavy-hitting firepower, which is very useful for this map. We have a Bishop, which can lob stuff over the hills, especially the hill up on the north. And then there's a tier 4 artilleries, which nobody really gives a damn about. As for our loadout, we have 2 gun barrel box on the ELC AMX, we have 6.7s. Otherwise, it does look like we have, I don't know, good camo crew, and we also have camo on the tank. It seems like we're running a gun rammer, a gun laying drive, and a binocular telescope. That's just my assumptions. Otherwise, we also have a fire extinguisher on the vehicle, which is quite useful at times, because it does have a frontal engine, and it does like getting set on fire at times. As for our initial deployment, let's buff this map size a bit. We're going to this ridge here, to a spot. And we're pre-aiming on the crossing area, but the first thing we begin to notice is that there's quite a lot of deforestation going on in the back of their base. And we even have friendly artillery targeting this deforestation if you saw the tracer. As for map deployment, the team seems to be heading primarily north. And yeah, there we go. An enemy T1 heavy spotted at 444 meters, but it probably wasn't us because we've been sat here for a while. It was probably this T-3485 when all of these guys unload on them. Continuing on, we put 1 shell in the T1 heavy and we send a bit of a twitched spam shot in return. The T1 heavy twitches, and on the replay, I don't know if that happened later on, well, I mean in the actual game itself or not, but we miss. And while we're looking to redeploy further towards the rock and the bushes behind it, let's have a look at what's going up here. And pause. I forgot to do this in the beginning, but stock turret KV1, stock turret M4, T1 heavies up there. We also have a stock turret 3485. Let me check the names. And you are, yeah, it's our stock 3485. Otherwise, we have a Wolverine over there with a stock turret. So we do have a lot of stock vehicles on the team. Or at least not fully upgraded. But our ELC is, and that's a big 90mm gun. Now, we spot the T-3485 and we back up a bit. But it's not really that much because, well, it's too much, that's what I'm trying to say. The top of the tank can now be spotted from over there. Kind of, if you see the line. And that's exactly what happens. Now, keep in mind, the enemy does have a Sepalafetta set, the tier 5 tank destroyer. So, he does have this is 9.5 before the tank destroyer nerf, so he does have the view range, especially with binocular telescope, to be able to counter scout us. And we've been staying here for a very long time now, so I would be starting to worry about incoming artillery fire. But this T1 heavy seems to have completely forgotten about us, so yeah, we're stealthing to knock him out. However, we are definitely spotted by firing that shot. And now, this rock really isn't big enough to cover us from enemy artillery. And that's most likely the Zeppelin trying to fire at us, because the bishop would easily be able to kill us firing over the rock. There's a BDR on the 09 crossing further up. However, he's not our problem, since we can't fire at him and the guys on the hill take him out. Now, 409 meters against a Zeppelin set. If he doesn't have binocular telescope, the likelihood of him being able to spot us is very high. However, it doesn't seem like it does. A bit of slow reaction, the Zeppelin comes up and then instantly backs down again. We fire regardless, and it appears we miss. And on 2 health, he doesn't seem very interested anymore, so we take a blind shot at the last known position of the 85, I think. And otherwise, it's like the sitting inside of the bush. But the south has, collapsed, and the only thing remaining there is an artillery. So we take a look north and see what we can see. However, the ELC AMX does have reasonably bad gun repression, so we're not really able to shoot much if they try to cross on the road. And now's a good time to really pay attention to the map. While we can safely fire on the 85, the KV-85 suddenly shows up behind us and is probably the one who would have spotted us, since when you fire, the camouflage isn't instantly regenerated again. It slowly regenerates back to your full value over a few seconds after you fire the weapon. Anyways, we have a look back up. However, they're there, no bush. So, yep, ding ding ding, was spotted. Time to move. And I would have just backed down instead of turning. And now, we're probably still spotted at this point, mostly because we can still see them. And we already know we've gotten some artillery attention. That was a Hummel. Anyways, the Hummel misses, we get a shell in the T-34-85, and we register that the S-35 has taken a hit just as we turn around, so he's on lower health. But we definitely outstayed our welcome in this position. The SU-100 was coming this way, and the KV-85 is also going in towards our base. Speaking of SU-100s, here he is. And sitting here is very likely to going to get us clipped. However, the T-34-85 shoots us first, so if any artillery was aiming on this area, they'd have to, re-aim and adjust to moving ELC. But by now, our welcome here has definitely been outstayed, and in my opinion, it would be a very good time to relocate further up north or to try to secure the south. Speaking of which, the SU-100, which came from the south, has shown up, and we can shoot him in the back. Well, side now. SU-100s are very blind. They have horrible view range. But horrible, that was a badly aimed shot. It was aimed at the terrain behind, so that since we're not firing APCR, the shell dropped would have meant that that shell would have fallen, over his head, which it did. We take another shell at him at 306 meters, and since our camera crew doesn't appear to be good enough, but the SU-100 does have a pretty good view range base regardless, he spots us, and we're sitting still. And as I said earlier, this rock is not good cover from artillery. It's too small. Any artillery down here can easily fire over. However, it looked like the Zeppelin earlier was firing from around here, since the shells kept impacting this area of the rock while we were sat here. So you can always draw a line from where the shell hits to where the target is, and calculate a general idea of where the artillery is most likely situated at. We fire a shot at 336 meters at the SU-100, which is, means it's unlikely he's going to be able to hit us. And now we need to go back and reset the cap. The S-35CA is able to stealthily take out the T-1 Heavy, and XCM didn't register a hit on the Bishop. But now it's definitely time to move, because this little bit of ridgeline here covers the base. And just before, just to make sure, this artillery, if I can line them up, is probably going to be aiming towards the base now, because that is the most pressing concern at the moment. And if it started rushing in earlier, yeah, that's a derp Sherman. He's gonna one-shot kill you if he hits you properly. He doesn't. And yes, you wanted to finishes the job. Regardless, even if he hadn't one-shotted us, he would still out-reload us. So popping up to take the shot and sitting there to aim was honestly a very risky decision. And that sounded like a Theater Bear shell. Well, it had to be, because the bishop's still in their base and he doesn't really have the range to fire this far. And now, it's us against 5 enemies. Now, in a situation like this, where there's 3 enemy artillery, taking out the artillery means that if you're spotted by the enemy tanks, you're not really going to have any long-range fire to worry about, and they're probably going to be looking to pre-aim on positions where you are. If you take out the tanks, you can take out their eyes. But right now, the only eyes they have is the S35CA, with again 400 meters view range. This is of course before 9.6 nerfed all of this back to the level of tier 2. Which, you know, seriously was deserved. Anyways, we spot the S35CA, and at that range, even though he's moving, if we have a camo code good enough, he's not really going to spot us until 250 meters-ish, giving us more than enough time to aim and safely take the tank out. However, with 400 meters view range, he's definitely going to spot us firing the gun. And we are doing a bit of light maneuvers to avoid artillery. However, the reverse stopping and going forward down the hill sometimes may not be the best. Mostly because it reduces our ability to relocate greater distances on the map instead of going forwards and down the hill to build up the speed, which most artillery players struggle to be able to calculate for acceleration. Anyways, let's speed things up a bit. Obviously this is a detailed analysis, you're getting a lot of detail, pretty much everything I can pick out of your gameplay. And we spot the vicious crossing over. He stops, we click, he's gone. And now it's definitely time to move, because the rest of them are going to start to aim at us. And again, the Dekwalle affected tries to take a shot at us, doesn't go anywhere near us, but the Humble's holding his. Now, we haven't seen the KV-1 at all the entire game. So he could be anywhere on this map. He could be all the way up at A0, which is unlikely. He could be south. And now, we've just driven up on top of this ridge, which is actually a pretty good position to see if there's anything left on the ridge early on in the game. But for now, it probably would be best just to take your time. Oh wow, we actually do spot the Hummel and the KV-1, and we can actually kind of line the Hummel up, but he's backing down off the ridge. So while we're here and the S100 is reloading, we might as well just go farm on the KV-1 because free XP. However, he disappears once our binos goes down, but he instantly comes back up again, and now just commence the farm. Now, as the SG122 said, even though he is AFK, and yes, he just slightly missed, he's still a danger, because he can still spot you. His vehicle is still in the game, so just farming it up isn't, you know, that bad of an idea. Our next job sadly misses, and it costs us a bit of time. And this SU is really seriously trying to steal the kill. Anyways, we spot the Hummel on our left, and now I would have instantly double 3 reload an HE shell, or whatever number you have. We spotted taking him out, and the Hummel knows where we are now. And if the Hummel lands a shell within a meter of us, we're kind of dead. So, that's the point of having an HE shell, to one-shot kill him. Now Rotty does a massive 3 damage splash towards him, and this Hummel has not fired yet, so closing the distance like this is very dangerous. Luckily for us, he's not aiming at all, clicks and misses. However, The Semper does have a very good reload. Well, not very good, but 13 seconds. You can get it down to like 11.5, I think. But he's fired as well, so we get the time to take out the Hummel by closing the distance and firing in his face. As of now, we're driving in a straight line again while we're typing, which is a very risky thing to do. While it may seem courteous to type, you know, thanks or whatever, don't do it until you're either safe or unspotted. Since the time when you were driving in a straight line, if the Semper was actually on this corner, which we don't scout properly, he could have taken us out with a very well aimed shot. Anyways, it is possible to drive over and hide here and there, which we don't properly scout. But regardless, it's not going to matter, and this is actually the end of the replay. For us at least. Because the SU-122A is actually going to find the Semper. Spoiler alert. And click. Well, both of them are moving, so there he goes. And that's the end of the replay. That is a 3.7k damage, I believe, game. A lot of, well, some of these blind shells that we fired did actually go in and cause damage. Now, yeah, you did say you didn't want a summary, so I'm not going to give it to you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.